you need to find your ikigai, the purpose of living by yourself. It's nothing compared to anybody else but your inside of you. So that's, I think, naturally, kind of built in, every individual.
And what's your ikigai?
At the moment, I have 2.
Hi, and welcome to the There's Another Way podcast with me, Adam Halverson.
And me, Pete Dolby. And you've come to the place where each episode we'll be shining a light on authentic people who have chosen an alternative path to their new normal to find another way.
Konnichiwa. Hey everyone, we're delighted to welcome the vivacious Tomono Davies to our show today. She shares her fascinating journey from growing up in southwest Japan to discovering a love for English culture at the age of 5. We'll hear what inspired her to chase her British dreams, how she adapted to a new culture, and the lasting impact of her mother's dedication to family meals. Tomono continues to uphold her family values, seamlessly blending Japanese and British cultures. And now she spends her time teaching people how to prepare authentic sushi while having fun and sharing Japanese culture with her guests. Tomono is warm, engaging and full of life. We hope you enjoy this first ever There's Another Way outdoor broadcast as much as we did, making the most of the fleeting British summer. There's Another Way.
Here we are, our first ever outside broadcast of There's Another Way, because it feels like it's 120 degrees.
Oh, wow, yes. This is like Japanese spring.
Japanese spring, exactly.
No need to boast.
People go, it's a heat wave. It's not.
No, it's not. Yeah, well, we'll get into that in a minute. But we're delighted to welcome Tomono Davies here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming along.
Thank you. Well, last time I saw you was during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And, here we are. We can meet face to face.
And learn all about Japanese culture. Well, that's right. I mean, we did. You run a lovely little business where you create memories for people making sushi and sushi classes, and we did one online. Had a great time.
Yeah.
I remember there was one guy just could not get the hang of the sushi making, and he was the class clown. Everyone was laughing. It was hilarious.
It's always one person who couldn't mute them off.
Yeah.
Or, but it was such a breathing weight to kind of be virtually sociable, because during the pandemic, it was against whatever I was trying to do on my business.
Yeah.
It was just against the COVID rule, indoor cooking, intimate, it's a small classes. And then I had to do something, I can't just sit down on the sofa, just playing violin, just looking sad. And I started doing lots of community volunteer work. And one of the lessons I met you was through a local school.
Yeah.
And
amazing. It was a lot of fun, and we made some happy memories doing that. And the sushi cake didn't go in the fridge, and we ate it the next day. And it was lovely.
Because the one thing I really strongly tell everyone is do not store the sushi in the fridge. You know, like the sushi sometimes you see in the supermarkets are kept in the fridge. When I saw that and when I tasted it, it's not sushi.
Yeah.
And if somebody thinks, I'm not really keen on sushi, but what sort of sushi did you ever try? I had it from a XX supermarket, and it is not sushi in my opinion, because once cooked sushi rice goes in the fridge, it becomes so stodgy. But the reason why they have to keep in the fridge in the store is that because apart from, I think, Waitrose or some occasional Sainsbury's, they don't make it over there. They have to be delivered from far.
Right.
And they need to keep checking the quality of the fish rather than the taste. But if you're doing this at home, it's perfectly fresh, and the pH level of the sushi rice with lots of sushi vinegars is just keeping everything fresh for at least a couple of hours. Do not keep in the fridge. That's the first thing I tell everyone.
Well, there you go. That's a lesson for everyone. And how many people have put the sushi in the fridge? I know I have. Well, not since that class, I have to say. But
Incredible. Well, just before we get into it, I'm just going to say as well, thank you for being such a good sport and sitting outside. So just for the listeners, there's going to be some background noise. I think we've got red kites, we've got planes, we've got dogs, we've got kids, cars. Yeah, the road is... We are in the countryside, but we're near-ish a road. But we thought we've got to make the most of it, right?
Yeah, loving this.
Yeah, so thank you for going with it. It's an absolutely beautiful evening. So hopefully it comes across on the audio.
I hope we don't pass out through sunstroke.
Yeah, exactly.
I loved your wife to say put their sun cream on it, so
So it's the first time we've needed to, I think, all year.
In about 5 years, yeah. All right, so konnichiwa,
Konnichiwa.
welcome. I did learn welcome earlier on, but I've forgotten it. It's quite a difficult word to say. But
we can say, you say irashaimase.
That's the one.
Perfectly.
That's the one I say.
But sort of like after, 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, we can also say konbanwa.
Konbanwa.
It's like a good evening.
Oh, I like that one.
Yes,
really
but
cool.
it doesn't look like evening now. So.
No.
Yeah, I guess we're still nearly midsummer, so...
Yeah.
konbanwa, I think I can remember that.
Konbanwa.
Well, just to set the scene, so I think we've mentioned on previous podcasts that both Ads and I have a kind of fascination with Japan. We've told you we've read the books Ikigai, Ushigoishi,
the purpose of life.
Wabi Sabi. I've always had a fascination with Japan, and I was trying to think earlier on where it comes from, and I don't remember if you remember where yours is from, but I remember when I was in Florida, I had a Japanese roommate, and he was called Samuel Teshima, and he was the coolest guy I've ever met, and he played the guitar, and he taught me a few chords, and unfortunately I've tried to track him down since. I can't find him anyway. He's just disappeared off the face of the planet, but he was such a great guy, and I think that's maybe where my love of Japan came. Can you remember where yours came from?
Yeah, so it really started to take off, and this is going to sound so bad, is the Tom Cruise film, The Last Samurai.
Yeah.
It just... to be fair, I quite like Tom Cruise anyway, but it was just when you see the cherry blossom, the building, the architecture, I was already kind of interested, but it just completely lit me up. And I think they did film that very well. And then you had all those films like, it's probably going to sound stupid, it probably wasn't even in Japan, but like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, I just thought all the cinematography was amazing. And what is it, the bamboo tree, like forests and all that stuff. And I think then I just started digging into it, looking into places like Kyoto, and obviously the history is fascinating. So yeah, it's just, it's top of, really is, it's absolutely very top of my bucket list.
It is for me, and I don't think it's stupid to, because we use movies to look at places we want to go to. I had Love of America when I was growing up, and same for Japan. But so we're delighted that you've come today to talk to us a little bit about Japanese culture.
Do you know, it's funny that you said
story.
that, the reason why you started getting interested in Japan. I mean, for me, for England, when I was about 16, I watched a film called Backbeat.
Oh, yeah.
About how Beatles united.
Absolutely.
And little I knew I was only just a young, naive girl. I thought that was England just because it was about Beatles.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw that, that's it, I'm going to go to England.
So that was the moment you realised that you wanted to come over?
I mean, I always wanted to come abroad to study English and master English. Since I was 4, I was a big fan of English. And I remember the kindergarten my mother sent me was quite a modernized one, back then. Then I remember every Tuesday we had Japanese English teacher. And everything she taught me was fascinating. Everything was like in a color, Monday to Sunday, everything. I just fascinated about how she taught, what she was talking about. And that was my first impression about cosmopolitan lady, or, knows about the other country and speak other language. And ever since, I was just always big fan of English.
So you started at 4 learning English, about English culture. Wow.
But that was just once a week, and it wasn't really about English culture, but it was language. Start learning English. Then in Japan, about the age 7 or 8, you start learning Romaji in alphabet and how you spell the things in Romaji. Then I started, every time I went on a car journey with my parents, I started reading the car emblem, like Toyota, Nissan, everything was in alphabet. And my parents were, oh my goodness, you can read that. And that's also encouraged, something I did it, impressed my parents. Then I, junior high, then when you're age 12, you start learning proper English. And I saw the first exam, I had 100 like mark, I thought, but it came back 71 out of 100. I was absolutely gutted. And I thought, I had a little arrogant, big head. I'm good at English and I'm going to have, 100 score. And that first one, it's just a little punctuation. There is no apostrophe or the capital and the lowercase and a period and a comma, just a small thing. But then ever since, I was reading English book every single day. And that also was my first passion, was about, being able to speak and learn English. But then when I watched the Backbeat, I wanted to go somewhere abroad, but I never knew. But that time I knew I didn't want to go to America for some reason. I just had the image of guns and crimes, Yeah. I mean, I was naive. It's not that, but that time it was just something stopped me thinking about, even though America is hugely popular culture in Japan.
Yeah.
And then I watched the Backbeat, so it's quite maybe similar,
way
how
really
I became interested.
Apart from that you actually acted on it and came here, whereas,
we're still dreaming about it.
We're still absolutely dreaming.
You should go. You should.
Oh,
Japanese yen is so weak now. It's like £1 against Japanese yen is about 202.
Oh, really?
Okay.
So getting there is quite expensive at the minute. We can't fly over Russia, so you have to go over Ankara, and coming back is by Alaska.
Okay.
So that adds 2 more hours, and hence
wow, I didn't realize. Okay.
hence the flight, surcharge is more expensive than before pre-COVID.
Right. Okay.
But once you get there, everything seems
It's cheaper. Because the common theory is that it's really expensive, isn't it? So that's
yeah. I mean, it's not good for people who are living in Japan, because the story behind that cost is that it doesn't mean that their wages went up past 20 years. My husband went back to Japan a couple of years ago, and this time he went solo.
Yeah.
Before we used to take young children, so we couldn't really go back to the place where we used to hang out.
Yeah.
But this time he had the opportunity to go back to the bar. He used to love going there after work. And he had this favorite mugi jochu. It's like a Japanese spirit made with wheat. And the shot of the mugi jochu, kanehachi, used to be 500 yen when we used to live there, like in early 2000, 2002, 3. And he went back to the same bar. He had the same shot of kanehachi. It was exactly the same price.
Is that right?
So 500 yen is the equivalent of £2.50 now.
Wow.
It's amazing quality shochu, and £2.50.
That's really good. I mean, you'd pay a lot more than that here, wouldn't you?
Here, it's like, even High Wycombe, where I live, like a pint of beer is £9.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
insane.
ridiculous.
I mean, I love going out for drinks, so, I don't mind. But still, compared to the price you pay in Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So back in Japan then, so what was it like growing up in Japan? I mean, what were your earliest memories? So obviously you talk about learning about English culture from 4 onwards, but how was life in Japan as a...
Yeah, I mean, I come from the place called Kochi, and it's in Shikoku Island. Japan consists of 4 main islands and thousands of small islands. But the smallest of the main island called Shikoku, and the Kochi is kind of like a banana shape on the south west, and the south part is facing to the Pacific Ocean. North part is covered by Shikoku Mountain. So as you could imagine, it is such isolated rural place I grew up. So it might be completely different story from the people who are grown up in Kyoto or Osaka or Tokyo, bigger city.
Yeah.
But for me, I think it was very... I mean, now I appreciate it. But when I was little, I was dying to leave.
Oh, really?
Everybody knew everybody's business.
Yeah.
For example, if I went to a bar and underage, they knew my brother, knew my mom and dad, and everybody knew what's going on behind the door. It's that's kind of things I wasn't really enjoying. And when you're a teenager, you want to go, nice places, you want to wear something you've seen in magazine. Wasn't anything available in where I grew up.
Right.
But having said that, I think I had quite fortunate, family backgrounds where I had my mom and dad, and I had older brother, and my mom was working full time. But one thing she taught me without trying to teach me was the food culture. She used to wake up like 5 o'clock every morning so that family are fed freshly made rice. So it's not like cooked last night or previous night. She literally wake up 5 o'clock, first cigarette. She loves cigarette. Oh my God. And she has a little cigarette first in the morning, and she starts cooking rice. And it's in a rice cooker, but rice cooker is majority of rice cooker is electric one, but she had this it had to be by gas, because it tastes so much better. And once you cook, you can't keep it like in the electric rice cooker. So it's such a daunting job. Every day you need to wash the rice, you need to cook, and you need to steam. But she used to do that every morning, and she started cooking our lunchbox. Everything was just freshly made. And I never see my mom ever had anything frozen product. She used to freeze the meat and fish and seasonal vegetable in the freezer, but I never saw anything, frozen product? Yeah, so that's something I never appreciated when I was living with her, but that's kind of lived in me. It's a standard. Every meal, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, was freshly made. And at least she used to make 8 dishes for dinner. 8. Now I cook only 1 dish.
Wow.
For my children.
So what would be included in those 8 dishes?
Yeah, normally main could be fish or meat, but if we had meat as a main dish, we always had a little fish as well, like as in sashimi or cooked one. Or she sometimes have some she cooked, big batch on a previous night, and she still have a leftover, like lots of box of leftover, because she cooks so many dishes, and obviously we can't finish in one meal. And yeah, mainly either chicken or beef and plus fish, or if the main dish is a fish, it's always with the tail and the head. It's fresh fish which is not being cut many hours ago, and she used to cook that, and we have with rice, boiled rice, and lots of vegetable side dishes.
Sounds really good. It sounds really healthy as well.
Yeah.
So food's been a big part of your life since you were little. If your mum put that emphasis and focus on it.
Which I really appreciate now, because, this is my bone and blood, and everything what she, made me is by fresh food. So that's something I wanted to carry on, for my children. Although I only do 1 dish a day.
And no cigarette, or maybe you do.
No cigarette. But, I have to tell you this story. Sorry, am I talking too much?
No, that's what we're here for.
It brings back so many memories when I start talking about it, because when I was 18, I came to England to study English after watching the Backbeat. And first Christmas, I realized everything will be closed for Christmas in England. I never knew, because in Japan, Christmas is a normal working day. Everything's open. It's just a normal working day. But all my friends went back to wherever their parents are. And I just realized, oh my goodness, it's going to be by myself. And the train, I used to live in Brighton, train will be stopped, and even the Waitrose will be closed. I can't go anywhere to shop anything. So I called my mum and crying for the very first time, because I never wanted to make her worry. Even I had anything, in the school, I never cried or never kind of told my mum that I was having trouble. I just didn't want to make her worry. But that was the first call, and the last call, no, not the last, second last call, I called her crying, begging to come over to England to spend time Christmas with me, please. And she just had a little pause. No, I can't do that. Why? oh, I can't stand the flight for 12 hours without smoking.
Yeah.
That was the reason.
Really?
That was the reason. So, really? Your daughter is crying and begging for you to come over to see me when I'm feeling...
She knows her priorities.
Exactly. Oh my God. Then when I had first child, she came over.
Oh, really? How did she manage that?
Well, he's a grandchild. He's a different
Yeah.
daughter, I guess.
So how long were you in the UK for when you came for that first time when you were in Brighton?
Yeah, so I was a student for 3 years since 1996.
Okay.
And I studied a Cambridge University, a certificate for the English for foreigners.
Okay.
And I failed, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, in December. Yeah, okay. Then that was the first year. Then I went back to Japan. Then I came back in September. Then I started a finishing school in London from September 1997.
Okay.
And that finishing school was a kind of secretarial school as well. So I could learn how to do shorthand, pitman, and, also the blind touch sorts of the computer skill. I just didn't want to go back home just being able to speak English that time. All my friends were having, great degree from university. I didn't go to uni. So that was kind of my complex that I had to go back to Japan with other skill rather than being able to speak English.
Yeah.
And also I had a boyfriend.
Okay.
I wanted to stay.
Did any of your friends or anyone else you knew kind of go abroad to study then, or were you the only one in your friendship group that did that?
Yeah, one of my friends actually went to New Zealand when she was in high school.
Okay.
But majority of my friends went to the traditional university way. Yeah.
And how did you feel coming on the plane to the UK? Were you excited for the first time?
Yeah. I was just so excited. But I must say, maybe 70% excitement, 30% worrying. Because I never been to England or anywhere outside of Japan.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember the day I flew out. I had to fly from Kochi to Narita airport, but there was no direct flight, so I had to fly to Tokyo, then had to take a limousine bus to Narita to stay overnight to catch a early morning 11 o'clock Virgin Atlantic air flight. So I stayed in a hotel by myself, being 18, for the very first time. And I went into the restaurant, and it was 1,300 yen, like a fried rice with a steak. And that time, that is so much for 18 years old girl.
Yeah.
And having to have a dinner in a hotel by myself was something I never done before.
Yeah.
I was like, what do I do? And, even before I flew out to England, I was petrified. What do I do? But then when I went on the airplane, that's it, I'm so excited. But I remember my mom was crying hysterically over the phone just before I got on the flight. That made me feel a bit wobble.
Yeah.
And Mom, you're not the one. Going, could you stop crying?
Go and have a cigarette.
Yeah, exactly. But now I'm a mother of two, I understand. But that time I didn't know.
No, of course.
Yeah.
And I thought, how selfish you are, you're crying, make me upset. I was such a selfish little girl.
But 18's not that old, is it? I mean, okay, you're classed as an adult, but taking a big leap like that at 18 is quite a young age to do that.
Yeah.
I admire you for doing that
Yeah,
age.
I mean, my son is 16.
Yeah.
In 2 years' time, he'll be the same age as me. Came to England solo by myself without speaking a word of English.
Yeah.
I think it's not me, but my parents were really brave and had such huge trust in me. I think I really appreciate that now.
And just to sort of maybe going backwards a little bit in terms of the culture and the environment. Obviously, you've had a good amount of time to get used to the English culture.
Yeah.
But I guess for the people listening, what would you say sort of the typical culture was like where you grew up, just to sort of paint that picture? And are there any major differences that, because obviously at 18 you would have been going into a completely different culture. And think that's one of the things that fascinates me about Japan is it's so different.
It's a good question, actually, because I think I have to divide into the experience 3 years as a student, 1996 to 1999. Then when I came back to England as a spouse of English husband and start having family since 2006, completely different culture shock, because first 3 years was everything was wow, like everything was not completely, but I almost felt opposite. For example, English people just use this gesture to try to say, come here. But in Japanese, we go like this.
Oh, really?
Just a small culture of how you use a hand gesture.
Yeah.
And and also I was taught, because my parents are, living in a rural place, so again, it might be completely different from, the Tokyo and the big city. But I was taught to be modest, and I was taught to be respectful for the others rather than giving your own opinion. But when I started studying English in St. Giles in Brighton, my teacher was always asking my opinions. What do you think, Tomono? How do you feel about? Can I say something quite different to the others? So the class I was studying English was full of, foreigners. Like I had a South Korean, Swiss, Brazilian, Italian, all, Turkish, any, people from all over the world. And they were giving all the opinions, even they're wrong. They are confident talking about stating what they feel. And for me, I wasn't confident to tell any opinion about myself, because I was taught disagreeing with somebody is disrespectful. Yeah. But here, it's a debate. It's not argument. But in Japan, we tend to think disagreement is a fight, sort of. I mean, again, depends on the people or depends on the background you grew up. But that's the kind of culture I grew up with, quite traditional. So it was everything eye-opening. I had to state how I feel, what I want. That was first challenge for me to change. And also, not afraid of saying if it's wrong. I used to say maybe, even though it was no. I didn't have a confidence to say no. Mm-hmm. So that was, I think the first
It's really
challenge.
interesting. And one of the things we always notice, for example, when Japanese football fans ever go to a tournament, they clean up.
That became a huge thing, wasn't it? Yeah.
And rightly so, because, you say you live in, you live near where we're recording this. Do you find that there's a big difference, like in terms of that pride, that ownership, that respect, a lot of the principles, I guess, in some of the books that we've mentioned?
Yeah, of course. Every country has pros and cons, and I don't want to, say this country is bad, this country is better, but massive difference between Japan and England is a public toilet. Somewhere you don't, need to show who use it. It's this, kind of behind the closed door. But in Japan, if you go to the public toilet, I don't know every public toilet, but majority of the public toilet I used spick and span, immaculate. Even it's not your own house. So because it's immaculate, I don't want to make a mess. If you ever make a mess, if your children make a mess, I clean the way it was. But here, because when I go into the bathroom, it's already dirty. And why would I touch anything else? Because I don't want to kind of steal somebody's job. Then people think, it's a cleaner's job. But yes, I know it's a cleaner's job. But at least you could have a little, courtesy to make everyone feel comfortable using a public bathroom. I'm not saying everywhere is that way.
It pretty much is in the UK, though. They're terrible. It's a really good point. We went somewhere abroad. We were in the UAE and visiting some friends, and I remember my wife was taking photos. It was like a hotel lobby. It was just, and you don't get that walking around the Eden Centre in High Wycombe, do you? It's just completely different standards and culture.
Well, I think one of the things that comes out in Ikigai is, even if you are, I say even, there's nothing wrong with it in any way, but if you're a street cleaner, or let's say a a washroom cleaner, whatever, you take the same pride in that
they
job.
are so dedicated. Like, for example, like a train cleaner, when the train arrives, they want to make sure they clean as soon as possible so the next passenger could get in. Like, for example, it's not a well-paid job, but they have a pride and dedication. It's not about, this is my job. It's not under my job description. I'm not doing that. No, not like that at all. If somebody's available, again, I'm not saying everybody's like that. I'm just, maybe trying to make sound Japanese are so much better. No, it's not. But, majority or the experience I had, it's like they are so dedicated to even small role or the bigger role, it doesn't matter. But I think that is ikigai. They want to be thought they're worth it. It's not about the salary or, it's just
being in the moment, isn't it? I remember reading about a lift operator in Japan, and they make a ceremony out of it because they're effective. They're standing in a lift and pressing the buttons and going up and down, but they make a real ceremony out of it. They're really present and really take pride in what they do, and I just think it's a fantastic message.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I think it's, it doesn't matter if it's a big job or small job. You need to find your ikigai, the purpose of living by yourself. It's nothing compared to anybody else but your inside of you. So that's, I think, naturally, kind of built in, every individual.
And what's your ikigai?
At the moment, I have two. One is my children. I want to understand that, how they feel, but at the same time, I love every day, watching them growing. And, not every day they're nice, people. They're teenagers, of course. But every day I feel, ikigai that, they are healthy, smiling, living their own life, experiencing something, I don't know. I am happy and I'm privileged to be able to kind of see they're growing. Every day is different. And of course, when they're not at home, they must be facing other challenges which I'm not aware of. But when they come home, they can just be themselves. They can be cheeky, they can be lazy. I don't mind. I mean, I'm quite strict, but I don't mind. They become themselves. They have a space that they can be themselves. And secondly, it's my little venture I started, 4 years ago. When I started, I never knew this is going to be so popular. But what I knew was that when I was a smaller child, small girl, I never met any non-Japanese because I was kept in such a little bubble. But then when I came, when I became a teenager, I had such a wrong ideas. Like as I mentioned, I thought American has a gun. I was naive. No, everyone has a gun, but I didn't know. And then because I didn't know, I was afraid of getting to know people or, what they think. But I think by even small culture thing like making sushi or the sushi, eating sushi is a small little different culture thing. If they are familiar with different culture when they're from younger age, I think one day people understand, even they're foreigners or, from the other place, we are same. Then that's kind of conflict of, I'm this, you're outside. I think that will be, less than, now. I think that's a small thing. I thought, yes, it's something I enjoy doing, but at the same time, I wanted to bring the Japanese culture from young age and any society. Making sushi is, some people think it's a bougie thing, but actually, it's 90% of the sushi is rice. And you don't always have to have expensive sashimi grade fish. You can have just a, frozen chicken gujon instead of, sashimi. But because sushi becoming so popular, I thought, that's it. I want to show how to do this at home rather than eating out or buying. But at the same time, I wanted to keep it simple and not using expensive equipment, because if that's involve lots of expensive ingredients, expensive equipment, it's not for everyone, And also, but keeping it authentic, because if it's simple, just fake sushi. Anyone can do it. But something what I could offer as a unique selling point is I know what authenticity is. But also I know it's difficult and it could be costly to make sushi if you're using lots of equipment and using lots of sashimi grade fish. And that's kind of thing, was my initial business plan. I wanted to bring the Japanese culture to any society, any, age, and especially sharing Japanese culture or, people getting to know me when they're like, little, maybe brings them a good impression. Oh, but impression? I don't know. But,
it's lovely because you talk about the ikigai of your children and obviously what you're doing now. But you mentioned earlier about your mum and your early memories of your mum getting up early and making the rice was a big part, and then all the fresh food that you had. And now you've kind of come full circle, and not only are you doing that to a wider audience, you're also talking about Japanese and educating people on Japanese culture as well. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as good as what my mum used to do, but at least I can just, carry on something what I learned. And she's, now I think about her. She's such a tough girl. She used to come home, even during 1 hour lunch break, she used to come home to start preparing for dinner.
Wow.
That was dedication. And, she's not young. She's 70. Well, I shouldn't say that young, old, but she's not getting younger, and she sometimes complains, I got such a backache, Well, why don't you just have a takeaway? She complains about her backache, but she's still standing in the kitchen for at least 2 hours every day with this age. And I think she's complaining, but I think it's her ikigai, treating my dad, because I am, my mom and dad's in 70s, and my dad is a business owner. My mom thinks, he's a king. And she wants to feel that any domestic job is, anything she does is to make him successful and healthy. And she doesn't say that, but now I understand that's her ikigai. Every day she complains, this fish was so expensive, blah, blah, blah. I think it's that kind of reverse modesty or showing off. I'm doing this much for my husband.
That says to me a real level of gratitude as well. It's her way of contributing and being grateful for where she's at. It sounds like to me anyway.
Yeah, and my mother-in-law, she's English, and also I don't think she might agree, but she cook everything from scratch every day, and I think she sent her husbands to the supermarket once a week with a list. And it's lovely things that, husbands helping, because my dad would never help. Shopping, that's not my thing. So I really respect for that, for my father-in-law. But then they plan a meal for a week, and they have this kind of nutritious, weekly menu. She's not Japanese, but, so many people are dedicated to that, and they might don't brag off this is my ikigai, but I think inside somehow that's kind of is a purpose of life, I think.
Just on ikigai, how do you talk about ikigai to your children? Is this something you've talked about for a long time? Are they fully aware of what theirs is, or are they still finding it? I mean, how do you talk to children about ikigai?
Do you know, they don't like my lectures. Every time I say, "Can you sit down?" Oh, here again.
Right.
So I try not to be kind of giving them a lecture all the time, but if little thing happen, try to kind of teach them. For example, first thing in the morning, you can't leave home without making bed.
Yeah.
And they don't think it's important thing. But if you can't make an effort making your bed, what is a priority?
Yeah.
Do you want to come back to the bedroom when everything is chaotic? But they don't care, do they?
No.
But I think that small thing, I want one day them to realize, when you get up, yes, it's not a big, purpose of life, but, you have some purpose. Why am I doing this? Why am I making bed? But that is because when you come home tired, the bed is already ready. You don't think, it's daunting, another thing.
Yeah.
So small things, I try to preach them and like, also polishing shoes every day when they come back. They say, oh, here again. Like they do it like because I don't stop nagging.
Yeah.
But I don't think they understand the reason sometimes.
Yeah, it's like with the bedroom thing. It's almost, I think, what certainly, I guess, English teenagers, it's like, why? Like, why does it matter? Why is it such a big deal? But it's, and again, you can start to understand why the Japanese have, I guess what my perception of it is, which is respect and pride, and I guess some discipline, which again I do think probably
discipline, yes.
Yeah, I do think is probably a little bit lacking here, as in I think obviously
it's always debatable, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think kids, it's the why, and I've really tried with our kids to sort of explain why it's important, as in it's not just a thing just so that you're doing it for us, actually you're doing it for yourself. And I think that's much more ingrained in, again, not having been there or stayed with families, unfortunately, but that's what it really comes across.
Yeah, I mean, I never, raise my children in Japan, so it has to kind of not to be biased. But what I'm so grateful here is in England, yes, maybe a lack of bit of a discipline, but on the other hand, because the culture I grew up with, it was hello. Was a red kite.
There's a lot of them around here. Yeah.
I think someone feeds them around here. The red kites around this area make a real.
Yeah,
I don't know what that was, but they do. You see a lot of them at this time of the evening.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, I mean, what was I saying? Yeah, in Japan, it's because we were taught to be disciplined, and that kind of experience I had when I came here. I couldn't express my opinions. I was really pushed down.
Yeah.
Just try to be same as the others and agree with people, But in England, it's not like that, is it?
No.
Like my kid started school, at the reception. On the first trial day, he was asked, "What would you like to do today?" If it was Japanese school, it was not, you do this.
Right.
And the teacher's always standing up in a little bit higher in the classroom. Everybody sitting down, really not, stay still, very respectful. Yes, it's a good thing. But in England, like the classroom is, you can see on the carpet, teachers asking, what would you like to do today? If you want to do some painting, yes, why not? That you're good at it. And if you want to do some, football outside, yeah, why not? You're good at it. It's just encouraging. But at the same time, you can't have both together. Discipline and that kind of respecting your identity and your, character. I mean, am I wrong? I don't know. It's just, it has to be a good balance. But I think it's difficult. I mean, everywhere you go, I think if you see in the depths, always a problem. And you have to have a good, I think, balance.
Yeah, I think that's a really positive way of looking at it. I mean, one of the things that always fascinates me is these studies that you look on in terms of like global happiness and
longevity.
Well, slightly different, but it's funny because Japan always seems to come quite low down. And I hope that's not controversial because
high suicide rate
and a high suicide rate. I was going to say that, but I didn't want to be too controversial. But
no, but it is true.
And I guess sort of what my perception is slightly is there's a lot of societal conditioning, a lot of not necessarily status games, but there's a lot of rules, and there's a lot of there's our favourite guy riding his motorbike through the village. Car. Yeah.
Today I saw lots of convertibles. Oh, it's a nice day to have a convertible.
One day every 3 years they can have the roof down.
Yeah, so, and I guess, like you said, I suppose it's when you don't know something, you put a positive spin on it. And to me, like I said, I'm almost frightened of going to Japan because I know I'm just going to want to move there. I mean, I want to move everywhere, but I know that I'm going to go there and be like, this is the place. But I guess you've had that opportunity to sort of compare and contrast.
Yeah, so I think that's my strength, to be able to understand both culture in the depths. And I try to take the best of both rather than slagging off for the of course, there are so many bad things about Japanese culture. There's so many bad things about British culture. I could see, wow, that's not international standard. But you can't live like that. I want to live happy.
But that's the beauty of travel for me. Living in different countries and traveling, you get to experience different cultures, and you can almost cherry pick the best bits. And then when you come home, you appreciate your own culture more because you've seen others. And I think you mentioned this or hinted at this earlier on. Is I think if there was more of an international perspective from more people, there'd be fewer conflicts. There always will be conflicts, but if there's more of appreciation for other cultures, for people that have been and travelled and spent time with people, because most people that you meet around the world are lovely, very similar mindsets, and there are cultural differences, but there's lots of similarities. And I think when you see these stories in the press and there's a big divide, and maybe you have a preconceived idea about a place before you even got there, before you've even been to meet people, then it's a shame, really.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of, again, England. Diversity is phenomenal. My son, I almost cried. My son started fasting a month ago when his Muslim friend was fasting, because he wanted to understand his friend.
Amazing.
And his friend told him, that's help you focusing. But it's easy for him to say, because he's been doing since he was little. Yeah. For Oscar, it was 15, 16, fast time, waking up 4 a.m. because he had to have something before the sun. And he used to be called by a school. His attitude is just like, unbearable. What's going on at home? And, actually, he's fasting. But as a mother, I wanted to keep him going till he break, because he have to make a mistake. He need to understand, and also the reason why he wanted to do was to understand his friend was such a sweet thing.
Amazing, really, really incredible.
Yeah, the generation and the place I grew up, I would never have that experience. I would maybe, if I saw some non-Japanese, immediately they're outsiders, they're different, Maybe, I was just ignorant, naive, but I would never try that. Maybe, I don't know. But because, that kind of opportunity I didn't have. My children are so, lucky to have that kind of environment.
Have you raised your children to be bilingual and speak Japanese, or?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because I tried, yes. And it was easier for me to do that for my first child, because it was just me and my first child at home. I could speak in Japanese all the time. And he also went to Japanese school in West Acton when he was in year age 6 and 7. But then when my second child was born, and, wherever you go, you're with the non-Japanese speakers. And when I was speaking Japanese, I was not trying, but it's almost kind of dividing or discriminating, or you don't need to understand what I'm it became quite challenging. I still try to speak to them in Japanese, and I think they understand more than they're able to speak. But I think their first language is English. But lots of my Japanese friends did amazing job. They are fully bilingual. They can write, read, speak fluently. My children, yes, do a little bit. But before COVID, every time we used to go back in the summer holiday, and they pick up, and I think they switch off English language brain. They switch on Japanese brain, and after 2 weeks, then they speak fluent Japanese after 2 weeks until Christmas time from summer holiday. Then somehow their ability of switching brain from Japanese language to English language takes about 3 to 4 months. Then they drop Japanese language like that. Then every time they go back again, it used to take them only 2 weeks to go back to speak Japanese. But then since COVID, we were away for a few years, and we didn't have any opportunity to use Japanese. I was speaking to them in Japanese, but there was no other kind of environment. Then now it's a little bit slower, but I think they still pick it up when they are in that kind of environment. So it will be interesting to see how they behave this summer because we're going back for 4 weeks.
Oh,
yeah.
fantastic.
So let's see if they still are the same kind of level of the Japanese.
Oh, well done for trying. It's very difficult, and I can empathise a little bit because my wife speaks fluent German, and she tried to raise them bilingually when they were little, but it's very difficult because we only speak together in English, and you switch, and then after a while, when they're hanging out with friends, it's very difficult to maintain it. I think, like you say, if you're immersed in that language all the time, then you switch the mindset, and then you can learn it. But maybe they've got a base, like you say, when they go over, they'll switch back.
I mean, I think it's a selective language. If they want to, I think they can speak. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see how they become an adult, to whether they want to continue learning Japanese or I'm not sure. That's up to them. But I
just talking about learning Japanese. I remember my roommate that I had in Florida. He taught me a couple of phrases, and then years later we had some Japanese. We had some business people over, but we went to a Japanese restaurant in London. You've heard the story about 10 times, but and we'd had a drink and we were sitting down, and the Japanese people were serving us. I was getting really excited because I was
in
Japanese
England.
In London,
In London,
yeah. So the waitress came over, and I said, "Hotan jobi omerito," and she stood back in amazement, and I'm like, wow, she's really impressed with my Japanese. It turns out it was actually her birthday, so that was happy birthday in Japanese. It was actually her birthday, and I just completely blown her away because she thought I was some kind of bizarre mind reader with Japanese. But
Wow, did you get free drink?
Nope. On the way out, I said to the other lady, "Hotan jobi omerito." She said, "Oh, very good, but you want to say it to her? It's her birthday." I said, "Yeah, I kind of figured that."
Oh, wow, that's impressive. It's not a short sentence. It's quite a long sentence.
It's the only one I've got, unfortunately. But it's a very difficult language to learn, isn't it?
It is. I mean, my husband lived there for 6-7 years.
Did he?
And yes, and he also got the Japanese. He did a Japanese. I can't remember the name, but the exam, so he can write and read.
Can he? Amazing.
But because he was working in English environment, like British company, so he didn't really have to use Japanese. But when he has few drinks, his Japanese get better.
Probably he relaxes a little bit.
Yeah,
A few
exactly.
sake,
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I have to say, I love sake.
Do you have it cold or hot?
I like both.
Yeah.
I like both. There's a restaurant up in London in the Ned called Kaya, I think, and they have some of the very high end ones, which Christmas I'll treat myself to. But theirs is cold, is delicious. The problem is it's so good, and all of a sudden you've drunk like 100 quid of sake.
If you like sake, try Dasai.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really good. Daiginjo.
I mean, to be honest, everything about, all the beers, all the whiskies, the sake. It's my go-to. I mean, we've got a Japanese gin in there. It's just
which one? Kinobi or Roku?
Roku.
Yeah.
I've had Roku.
Yeah.
It's really
Kinobi
nice.
is really good too.
Yeah. Okay.
Kino Bi.
Okay. That sounds lovely.
Yeah. And if you are into whiskey, you should visit a Yamazaki distillery in Kyoto. You can have a little tour of how they make Yamazaki.
Oh, amazing!
Yeah, Yamazaki.
And I've had Yamazaki. It's good. Although I haven't had a drink for 6 months, so this is quite painful. But
is that because you had to, or you decided?
A little bit had to.
Yeah.
Health reasons, unfortunately. But it's taking good memories anyway.
Yeah.
I know it's not the most culturally switched on show, but there's a show called Somebody Feed Phil, which I keep talking to you about on Netflix. And he goes to different countries and cities. You've seen it, but he went to Kyoto, and it's in the latest series. I watched that episode. I nearly booked a flight as soon as I finished watching that episode. Kyoto looked amazing. So I know Japan's a big place, but if you were recommending places to go for people that have never been to Japan, where's some of the highlights, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, depends on what you want to do. But if you're sporty and if you like winter sports,
snowboarding,
definitely
in
Hokkaido. But if you like more cultural sightseeing, yes, because Kyoto is the ancient capital, like Winchester. It's amazing. The buildings are old old, but because of the old buildings, people respect to keep it that way.
Yeah.
I love that. And Kyoto, if Kyoto is too much for you, Nara, right next to Kyoto, is an amazing place as well. And again, if you are more into kind of beach holiday, hop onto the, little airplane to go to island in Okinawa.
Okinawa.
Amazing.
I was going to bring up Okinawa because obviously it's one of the blue zones, which is obviously very, very closely related to food.
Yeah. Do you see there about the purple potato?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Isn't there a saying in Okinawa which is something like the translation in English is like it's the equivalent of have a nice day, but actually in Japanese it's like go and have a yam or something.
Excuse my ignorance, but maybe must be, but I don't know, but maybe something like that must be like something to kind of enjoy your day by using that word.
Yeah, there's Dan Butner's Blue Zones on Netflix. I don't know whether you saw that, but there's one episode on Okinawa and the
yes,
longevity.
I saw that.
The people in Okinawa were incredible. I mean, they consider 90 to be young. And
They're still dancing.
Yeah, and she had a bottle of wine in her head.
Yeah.
I mean, she was incredible, and she must have been mid-90s. And just the sense of community, the exercise, they all do gardening and keep themselves active, and that sense of community. And
I mean, Okinawa used to be the one of the most the place that has longevity, and because of the weather, because what they eat, and I think generally people are more laid back. I mean, compared to, Japan is such a long country, so north of Japan, like Hokkaido, is a latitude is more like a North Europe, but the latitude in Okinawa is more like Middle Africa. So weather is completely different. But it's interesting that you said, I'm not trying to disagree or anything. I saw Michael Mosley a couple of years ago, and I did a sushi making class for him. And he just came back from Okinawa, and he was telling me interesting story that he said, people think Okinawa people has longevity, but actually now, because there's so many fast food became so popular, they're losing the culture of the food.
I've heard that.
And that
adopting the Western diet.
So sad.
Yeah, and so, yes, originally, historically, Okinawa was such a, untouched small place. People are, having such a long life, happy life. But now food diet's changing rapidly. I'm not saying that having KFC is bad, but if it's like more available and cheaper, and if you are struggling, you tend to have a cheap food because it's available. But if you buy cheap food, it's processed, and your body is taking all this toxin inside, and it's addictive. It's a vicious circle, and something like I feel a bit angry sometimes. Why would you make it so cheap, such unhealthy food over here? Like when I came to England, the frozen food section was massive. In Japan, like a frozen section is just a tiny in a supermarket, but because it's easier, convenient, but it's cheap. So if you have to feed a family of how many, and if you're struggling, it's easier and it's quicker. It's not time consuming. That kind of culture is easily demolished, vanished.
We want to do a whole episode on nutrition. I mean, we've read lots of content and watched lots of stuff on it, and it's a real problem, isn't it? With the parachute, these fast food joints in the US, and it's cheaper to buy a Happy Meal or a meal than it is going to buy fresh fruit and vegetables, and it's just it just perpetuates itself. It's really bad.
Because I think if in Japan the most delicacy is a raw food because it's fresh. It's the life expectancy of those food is short, and therefore you can't keep for longer time. That's why it's a delicacy. If you deep fry or if you put so much sauce, you can disguise the unfreshness. But if it's not with lots of food flavor or sauce or mixed with something, it's not be disguised. It's just honestly, you will understand how fresh or how not fresh it is. So maybe that's why it's, like even salad is kind of, if you're restaurant owner, salad is quite costly thing. Yeah.
But you said you've been here 26 years. You've been in the UK. Did you say?
Yes. So 3 years as a student. Then I came here 2006. So how many years is that now? Almost 18, right? 18 plus 3. So it's 20. Talking which?
It's not a Chinook, is it? It's not.
We're having everything today.
I think we were talking about these earlier on.
Yeah, it is.
It's a Chinook.
Look.
So they military use them as posh taxis, I think. I think it's probably Rishi going off the campaign trail back to Chequers.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
There you go.
I think we just, yeah.
This
It's
is
funny,
it.
we were just talking about that earlier on, weren't we?
Yeah.
So just for the listeners, Rishi Sunak's just flying over in a Chinook helicopter. That sounds great. Yeah. No.
It's funny, we were just talking about it, weren't we?
But I was going to 26 years, Tomono. You must miss Japan, or going back? How often do you go back? Does that give you your fix again, and then you're happy here, or yeah? I mean,
Yeah, I miss Japan because my parents are still there.
Yeah.
And I go back once a year,
okay,
maybe. Yeah, once a year.
yeah,
But I love living here too.
Yeah.
You know, more opportunity for women.
okay,
Yes, definitely. I used to work for a Japanese company actually in London, and when I went for the annual meeting thing in Tokyo, everyone sitting down in the front was male.
really?
I would never see that in English company.
No, that's
Never.
interesting. Yeah,
I mean, yeah, and also if you watch the news in Japan, normally male, the broadcaster, and the female reads a bit of news. Never male. Not actually. It's wrong. It's changing. I sometimes see female anchor woman, but when I was growing up, it was always male, and the female only does a small stories. But in BBC News, you see, and it doesn't matter.
yeah,
That's kind of thing. And I think when my dad's found out, what I was doing for work in Japan, I was working for the magazine, and because it was a monthly issued magazine, there was obviously a deadline every month. And just before deadline, I used to work till 12 o'clock, and I used to catch the last train. Yeah, it was the job, I used to enjoy, and the money was good and that kind of thing. But my dad was, "You're a woman, why do you have to do that?" He said that. This is like how many years ago? 20 years ago. Only 20 years
Wow.
ago. And you're a woman, why do you have to work so hard? I mean, Dad, why?
Yeah.
I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Again, that's kind of thing. If he told me before I came to England, maybe I never questioned what he
Yeah.
said. But because I lived in England for a couple of years and I know how women are independent, they're working in, they sometimes complain about different, work salary. But still, compared to Japan,
Yeah.
it's more advanced.
yeah. And I think having a daughter, obviously, that's really important for me and probably for you as well.
Absolutely.
But, Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Do you think that's maybe just contained to the region that you grew up in, or is that reflective of Japan as a?
I think mainly because I grew up in a rural
Okay.
and such a traditional parents. They're not really kind of cosmopolitan people.
Yeah.
I mean, they are good at what they're doing, but I wouldn't ask any opinion about international affair from my parents.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
And yes, but I think even if you go to Tokyo, it's closer to Western culture,
Yeah.
but still 10, 20 years behind of what you have here for the equality.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. And so business is going well then with the sushi business. You're enjoying it. I see photos on Instagram.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, I
Yes.
think it's great. And
Now I'm just like, it's so busy, but it's your own little venture
Yeah.
and my ikigai, and I'm complaining, but it's a good problem to have. Yes, good. I mean, half of the time I do corporate event, so I go to the offices and I did a team building event. So the format is slightly different to the private sushi party because they learn a basic skill to begin with. Then they'll be divided into the smaller teams, and they have to compete each other by bringing edible and presentable sushi, but I give them such odd ingredient in a mystery box.
Right.
So when they open, like, what is that? It's like a fermented soya beans. What is that? Have you seen the episode of Shogun?
No.
Oh my goodness!
No.
You're missing a life. You should.
Someone recommended that to me, Shogun. I'm sure our friend Rocky did.
Sorry. I have seen a couple of episodes. It's
The new
really
one?
good.
Yes.
Really good.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a based on the book written in 1970s, 80s about the English sailor end up in Japan. And then they
I'll get
had
back into it.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. There was an episode about fermented nut soybean in the Shogun. Sorry, I got too excited about that.
That's great.
And so they receive what is that? Is that they receive a salami in the mystery box? What do I use? But they need to come up with the idea. That's the whole point of team building. They're challenged and they need to come up with a solution using sushi. So
Okay.
that's a good format, but the private lesson is more like sitting down, more kind of like being creative, therapeutic, make the sushi together. Then at the end, if they want to, they can do kimono fitting. So it's a slightly different formats for the private party and corporate, but still, I'm trying to. I don't want to sound like talking about trying to educate how you should put soy sauce in the sushi, how you use it, ginger, white, the history of sushi. That small things, make huge difference. The one thing I again tell them is never store the sushi in the fridge or never put the soy sauce in the rice side, because when I was working for Japanese restaurant when I was student, majority of the clients were Japanese businessmen, but 10% were American tourists and a bit of British, because this is back in many years ago when Japanese food were not widely spread. But they were dipping the soy sauce on the rice side. What are you doing? But again, I was just a little waitress. I couldn't really tell them off. But because the sushi rice is so sticky, if you put anything sticky, in a liquid, it dissolves so much soy sauce.
Right.
And you will only taste the soy sauce. And sometimes even sushi breaks in the soy sauce pot because you put so much soy sauce, and it kills the beauty of sensitive a flavor of sushi rice and a lovely combination with the kind of room temperature fish and the rice. So that's more things I teach them. Like, I didn't know. Oh, that's good. That if you found it informative.
Amazing. And do you typically with the corporate side, do you go to offices or do they come to you?
I don't have a restaurant. Or my kitchen is tiny.
Okay.
I can't host more than 4 or 5 people, so I always travel. So when they ask for the quote, I always ask where you're based, because I need to charge my trouble. Mm-hmm. It's my time, my petrol, and so 100% I trouble to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's mainly corporate, or you do individual families?
Yes, of course. The private parties, kids' birthday parties are quite popular nowadays.
Yeah.
And of course, hen-dos or, any occasion, some ladies just, meet gather on Wednesday nights with wine. They provide the drinks and they just wanted to do something, but not just going to the restaurant. They wanted to do some more socializing. So because I travel to them, it's more friendly, relaxed, and they can use their own home. And the time-wise, it's not like factory, setting. You can just start, and when I finish sushi making, I'll go, but you can continue your party, and it's nice.
I think it's great for the kids, because they do say you should get kids involved in cooking and just make a mess, because it's them experiencing it as well. And because I think for me, obviously I'm a lot older than the kid, but I think the first time I had sushi was when I was in Sydney, because there's availability of sushi. I grew up in the northeast of the UK, and we didn't have it.
What did you think about? Before you had sushi, what sort of image did you have?
That's a good question. I don't really know, but I remember my wife saying, "I'm going to have some sushi." I'm like, "I'm okay, thanks."
Yeah, it's a raw fish. I think intimidating, isn't it?
And she'd try it, and I'd try a bit, and I think, Well, that's fascinating. It didn't grab me straight away, and then try it again, I think. And then suddenly one day I found myself dreaming about sushi. It's like, and I'd got the bug, you know. And then
the first time I ever ate it, I would go as far as saying I think it's my favourite food, actually.
Yeah.
You know, like in London, obviously Itsu popped up, and I think as a chain, it's done a really good job. And obviously Yo Sushi was quite an exciting development when it came over here.
Yeah.
But it's funny that I'm fascinated by the fact that you know there's different nuances to real sushi, because I'd really like the kids to find out about that, because we I mean, there's Osaka now in Wickham.
Yeah.
There's one in Princess Risborough that we tried as well.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think there's an on-demand place in Aylesbury that deliver as well.
Is there?
Yeah,
if you order ahead of
that's
time.
right,
I've
yeah.
not tried it.
And you can even get, on delivery, you can even get the supermarket stuff delivered.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting, because I actually didn't realise I mean, I guess it's a bit naive of me, but I didn't realise that actually there are differences to how, there's ways you do it, there's nuances to do it correctly, basically.
Yeah, and younger is better, isn't it? They're open-minded. You know, because the knowledge what they have is limited compared to the adult grown-up. I think they're more open, and if they kind of met my authentic sushi when they're young, I think it doesn't put them off, because sometimes raw fish or the smell of fish puts people off. But fish shouldn't be smelly if it's fresh. But if it's not, and if it was your first experience, that put you off, and it's quite traumatizing.
Well, I guess in Japan I guess there is, because a lot of the issue here is it's farmed. Do you have that problem in Japan? Or?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to sound like, you know, how do I say, taking one side, but there is always a same issue in Japan as well.
Okay.
They call it's a naturally like a grewed, but actually it's farmed, you know. But how do you know? Sometimes, like, you know, you have to look at the label really carefully, and some people are quite snob about where the origin of this fish. Like, you know, sometimes it doesn't matter about, you know, people who cares, you know.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be misled,
Yeah.
but you should really read label carefully, because they try to mislead, because obviously farmed ones could be produced so much cheaper way.
Yeah.
And they can, you know, I mean, sometimes I can't tell the difference. Depends. But sometimes it's such an obvious difference, and the price-wise is, it's not always the case, but you get what you pay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, there is a reason for the price behind it.
Yeah.
So...
How do you find sourcing ingredients here in the UK? I guess you've seen a massive change in the 26 years since you've been here with availability.
Yeah,
of
exactly. Now I can even get like a ramen base from normal supermarket.
Yeah, yeah.
I couldn't do that when I was a student. And I met the CEO of the Kikkoman Europe a couple of months ago, and he told me, so where do you get the soy sauce from? Like, I sometimes bring back from Japan. No, because they have a plant here. It's the freshest.
Oh, really?
If you buy UK-produced Kikkoman soy sauce.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
So the bottles are beautiful,
they
aren't
Yeah,
they?
yeah, because you know what? They only use 4 natural ingredients. I'm not trying to sell, you know, but, you know, because I know that... Yeah, I should be. But because I only want to use the best ingredient, if you want to make an effort, you know, why not? Just, if you make an effort making lovely sushi, why would you go for, like, you know, not authentic or not flavorful soy sauce? You know, Kikkoman soy sauce, only water, wheat, soy, and salt. That's it. Natural ingredient and naturally brewed. And they keep the recipe for 300 years. It's the same recipe.
Wow.
And it's not generic. It's not, you know, and nothing additive goes in. So, for example, if I go to do this private sushi making party, I always bring my own soy sauce, even though they say, oh, I have soy sauce. I don't trust that. Because sometimes, not everyone, and I'm not trying to, you know, say anything bad, but some people have a soy sauce open like 4 months ago, because maybe they don't use it every day. It's opened 4 months ago. The color changed, the flavor changed. And when you make the freshest sushi, I don't want that to be ruined by an old soy sauce, or, you know,
It's like having a gin and tonic and using a crap tonic, isn't it? I mean, if it's like I know the advert says it's 80% of your drink.
What was that tonic? What
Fever-Tree, yeah.
That is so true.
Yeah.
I should use that for my sushi making.
There you go. but if you go, like you say, if you're going to the effort of making this beautiful rice, which is a real kind of art form, you know, there's a lot of science behind it, isn't there? If you're then dumping a load of crap soy sauce on it.
I mean, it's not the most expensive thing, you know. Even you go for the Kikkoman and the generic one, it's not a huge difference in the pricing. But sometimes if you try to get the cheapest ingredient, if you don't know the difference, I would sometimes go for the cheapest one. If I don't know anything about, let's say, German mustard, you know, I might just like get the cheapest one. And, you know, German people might be like offended.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not the, you know, real mustard. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think it's all about what you know. But when they come to my sushi lesson, I always tell, get that, you know, proper soy sauce and do invest a little bit money on rice.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And if anyone listening fancies one of your sushi parties or coming along, what's the best place to visit your website and can they? Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, if you're local, I mean, I'm based in High Wycombe.
Yeah.
I do a workshop at the front room on the Castle Street every month. So that's coming back on the Saturday the 13th of July, starting 1 o'clock. And I'm doing another evening one at the Mud Squirrels in the pub in September. But if you want to host a private party, you can just give me a email, you know, to tomonosushiparty@gmail.com, or you can go to the website. It's tomono. Do you know what? I can't remember.
We'll put a link in the show notes.
Yeah, thank you. tomonosushiparty.co.uk.
Yeah.
I have to check. Yeah, I mean, you know, I travel up to 2 hours. If you want to do their corporate team building, I travel to, you know, Swindon. What was the farthest one I did was Tonbridge.
Oh, yeah.
But normally, mainly in London, but I travel everywhere up to 2 hours. So, yeah.
Fantastic.
Let me know if you're interested.
And what's next then? What's next for you?
Next one.
Future dreams?
Well, by the age of 50, maybe I want somebody, you know, running class for me. You know, I want to train more people, and they don't have to be Japanese. You know, I just want to, you know, keep my little venture going. Even I'm getting a little bit older. You know, I just want, you know, sushi making is just not the difficult thing. I want people to be able to make sushi at home. You know, at the moment, I think it's quite a niche skill, but maybe in 5 years, 10 years time, I want people to have more choice in a dinner table or lunchbox. Sushi making at home becomes a usual thing. So in order to make sure that will be spread, I have to keep talking about my business. I keep telling, you know, doing what I believe, what is good for everyone. It's not only nutritious reason, but I believe this sushi making thing is for any generation, grandparents to the, you know, any generation, to bring everyone together around the table. I think it's a good, you know, activity to do around the table. And, you know, on Saturday, sometimes I just can't be bothered to cook, you know, nothing like my mother, but I want to eat something nice. I just make a big bowl of sushi rice, just put it on the table. I cut nori seaweed and whatever I have in the fridge. It doesn't have to be, again, you know, 2 hours trip to the, you know, fishmonger. It doesn't have to be. It could be with just chicken nuggets or chorizo, whatever you have in the fridge. Just put everything on the table. My children stay a little bit longer on the dinner table, you know, because they need to make their own. They have to kind of make their own rather than just being fed.
That's a great
Amazing.
idea. And we heard about the importance of a previous episode with Therese. The dinner table was basically the foundation. I think you listened to the episode of her.
Exactly.
Lots of how she is today, and you know, she learned a lot from the values of the dinner table. It's so important. It's difficult when the kids are distracted. You know, we always try and have family meals, but it is difficult to keep them there. And I think
this modern society, everything's so busy. Like, it's like by minutes, you know, it's easier to just have bish bosh, like 5 minutes dinner. But I think, you know, I want to keep my tradition, being around the table as a whole family together. Even they do whatever they need to do during the day. At least we get together once a day. And I start doing like starter and a main now, even though it's just 2 dishes, so that kids stayed on the table a little bit longer.
That's a great idea.
And also I feed them a salad first.
Yeah.
Because they're hungry. They have to eat it. But if I put everything together...
they'll eat the sort of more fun stuff or
I just hide it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, because I think, when they're a little bit younger, I just wanted to get rid of them because I was exhausted. But now I want to spend time more with them. Yeah, because, I know that's not going to be with me forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's flying, racing by too quickly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And would you, so you started it 4 years ago. I mean, are you happy with, are you surprised with how it's gone, or are you sort of...
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, it's overwhelming. I mean, the review I receive is just, wow, I never expected this is going to be so popular. I mean, I knew that is, fun things to do, but as a business, would it work, because I get live feedback every lesson.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's easier to kind of transform the lesson. Oh, that didn't work. It worked. Oh, they liked that. Every lesson is a learning curve. So I wouldn't say my, format of class is perfect still, but at least I'm trying to kind of make it as informative as possible, as fun as possible. But also, at the end of the day, if the sushi doesn't taste nice, what so make sure the quality of the sushi I'm providing or teaching is authentic and also something they can't forget.
Well, I can vouch for that because we made the sushi cake during lockdown, and it was so much fun. We'd still talk about it. It was great. We had a great experience doing that, and even that was remote during lockdown, so it'd be even more fun face to face. But
I mean, I'm so lucky that, my friends encouraged me to start this business.
Yeah.
When I was I was made redundant year 2019.
Right.
And I was kind of doing a soul searching. What do I do? Do I go back to the corporate again? Do I do what I want to do? I was not sure what to do for about 6 months. Then when my friends encouraged me, what you do is amazing. Just, make it as really do things. So I was not sure. Then the pandemic hit, and that was like I lost all my confidence. But I knew this is a thing I wanted to try, and thanks to my husband, supported me. No income for nearly 2 years. But then I knew what I wanted to do, and I think I also knew this is something I enjoy doing, spreading the joy of sushi making. Not only that, but talking about my culture, something I naturally understand, what is authentic and what is good sushi. So, yeah.
And it's your Ikigai. It's a great story.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Amazing. It's great to have friends who lift you up and encourage you.
Yeah.
And it sounds like your husband did as well, so it's fantastic.
Oh, he's my number one fan. He's always the first one to like my post.
Oh, brilliant.
Like sometimes you're stalking me, but and he always share my little post on his Facebook. He doesn't have to do that, but it's sweet. He does that. He always also trusted me. You're the perfect person to do this. Don't give up.
And was there anything that gave you the idea in the first place? So it wasn't his idea. Was there anything?
No. I mean, I always loved teaching how to do sushi, but it's for friends. I never thought about charging. But something I also thought, there is no authentic sushi around me. I can't go to London every time when I fancy sushi. And I started making my own sushi, and I self-taught because the water is different. In Japan, soft water. Here is hard water. Temperature and humidity is different. So when I was following the Japanese authentic recipe in England, it didn't really work.
Interesting, yeah.
And the temperature is different. So I had to kind of try and error, I tried so many different things, and I ended up keeping it simple, but keeping the authenticity is something I thought it's unique. It's something it wasn't really available. So, but at the same time, trying to teach how to make sushi using just a local produce, veggies and whatever you can get from the market or the shop, and using the normal equipment what you have in a normal kitchen. I thought that is the way to stick, because otherwise people do that one time, and if they stop doing that, it's not my mission is not going to be completed. My mission will be completed once they master it, when they started doing at home without my help. So yeah, I always liked people as well. Like sushi making class, I always meet people. That's my fascination. I like people and I like meeting new people.
Yeah.
And if I weren't doing this, I didn't, meet you.
Exactly.
I didn't talk to you,
Absolutely.
even though we live just around the corner.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about this a lot. I mean, we do think this is our Ikigai, or one of them anyway, because we enjoy meeting people like you and hearing your stories,
It's
and we're
different.
genuinely interested in hearing these things. So to be
Yeah.
able to record it and document it for
Absolutely.
other people to hear.
Yeah.
We're really
Absolutely.
grateful that you've been able to come and share.
Oh, thank you
share
so much
some
for
of your stories.
remembering me.
Oh, no, it's been brilliant. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Well done for doing
Yeah.
it, because it's such a great idea, and obviously I haven't done it yet. Pete, you have, but we'll sort out details now to make sure that we get it
please
booked, and I'd love for the kids to have a go, because
Yeah.
that hands-on experience I think will change.
Exactly, it's a
change their
hands-on
whole-
class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we could arrange one here with a few
Yeah.
families.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
it's nice.
Yeah.
I always tell children it's like playing with edible Play-Doh.
Yeah.
They are the most creative creatures. They come up with new ideas all the time. I brought a few things. Are you okay?
Yeah,
with
go
Yeah.
for it. Yeah.
What time is it? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Because the English match is 8 o'clock, isn't it? I brought this.
Wow.
Have a look.
What's this?
Guess. What are they?
We have to take some photos of these, aren't we, and put them on. So this, my initial reaction. So this is a small.
Oh wow.
Is it like a stamp? I'm thinking like a stamp. Is it a stamp for putting a Japanese stamp on an envelope or a piece of paper? Or
So it's
Nori.
actually Nori kata.
is it?
Ah.
So you place a seed of nori seaweed in
In the okay.
then if you stamp, you get like shaped nori seaweed. So
Yeah,
kids has more time to decorate the sushi. I bring more kind of creative side to the kids' lesson.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So just to try and explain this, so it's like a small kind of, I guess, plastic box with like a slit in it and a button on the top, and you press it. I'm not explaining it very well.
Well, no,
at all.
it is, and then it creates a little smiley face in the in the nori.
Amazing.
Which is brilliant.
We'll
Are
take some pictures.
Are these
Yeah.
from Japan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my friend from Osaka came to England with his daughter in March. So I said, I'm going to buy something on Amazon, deliver to your house. Can you bring them? He said, is that legal? Yes. Yeah, so these are edible glitter.
Ah.
So kids can decorate the sushi with the glitter as well.
Wow.
Edible glitter.
Yeah.
No way.
I have like 20 different colors.
So this would really resonate with the kids then, because
Yeah.
they can really get creative, can't they?
Yeah, because kids don't want my lecture about history about sushi. No, they're not interested. But as long sorry, I'm not patronizing children. But they, the concentration, they need to be
absolutely.
entertained all the time. And what I found was that they are more engaged when they're making something with a hand. So I spent a little bit more time on decorating.
But I think you're planting the seed as well, aren't you? And I've told this story a million times, but I remember being 13 and being in a guest house in France, and the lady owned the place. All the people staying there sat around this big table, and she brought out coquilles and jacques, and I remember the smell. So it was incredible. I never smelled anything like it in my life, and I always remember it. And I
Yeah.
think, by doing this and letting them get creative, if they don't appreciate it now, then they're planting seeds for later on, I think. It'll give them that appreciation.
Also, like children's sense are so sensitive.
Yeah.
Like you said, I remember the songs I used to listen in the dad's car.
Yeah.
I remember the summer mornings, like when dad was playing, baseball. I remember the morning dew smell.
Yeah.
That's kind of things when you're young. I think
Absolutely.
it stays, and yeah.
I think I was thinking about this the other day. I think experiences you remember when you attach an emotion to it, don't you? So if you're really happy or you're really sad or you hear a song that it captures you in the moment, I think that somehow categorizes itself or catalogues it somewhere.
Yeah, so if you learn that in a happy environment, or if you're dining something or learning something in a happy environment,
So this is part of the
it's a positive impact.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Sorry, my daughter's here. Do you want to say hello?
Yeah, how are you?
So you put this is the seaweed sheet, right? So you put the seaweed sheet in there, and then you press down on this.
Get a smiley face.
And then you get a smiley face.
So you can decorate.
Yeah.
And then we've got some edible glitter here.
I'll use that. Amazing. Because that's not something you see every day, is it? Thank you for bringing those.
Yeah. I just wanted to I mean, sometimes I can't explain things in my words correctly, but I think seeing is believing you.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. All right. Well, I think that's probably probably a wrap on today's sushi wrap.
Yeah.
Before we thank you very much for
Thank
coming
you
along
so
and
much
telling
for
us all
having
about
me.
Japanese, all things Japanese. It's been amazing to hear all about it, and great to see you face to face without the Zoom background.
Yeah, we saw each other over the Zoom call.
Yeah, exactly. In lockdown. Yeah, it was one of the highlights of lockdown. But you've been on a real journey from your early days in Japan and then coming over to the UK after watching the movie. What was What was the movie called?
It was a Backbeat.
You know,
No?
it's one of Kat's favourite films.
Is
as well.
it?
Yeah, I think because of Stephen Dorff.
Oh no, I don't think I've seen it. No, I'll have to watch it. But
And also the reason I chose Brighton to study was when I watched the Quadrophenia,
oh yeah,
the mods.
the mods. But how funny that we've watched Japanese.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's really funny. That gives you that appreciation for.
Yeah, I think lots of Japanese people look up to British culture so much.
Really? Well, I think the feeling's mutual. I would say. Well,
definitely.
certainly for us. But if you could rewind a little bit, Tomono, and you could go back to just before you jumped on that plane, going over to Brighton for the first time and learning all those cultural differences and learning to voice an opinion and things like that. If you could give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice based on everything you've learned since you've been here, what do you think that might be?
Don't give up, trust yourself, believe in yourself, what you want to do. I mean, so many people try to stop me, that's not for you. But, just don't listen to those people who try to put you down. But I think they're just trying to ensure you're going to be okay. But at the same time, it could be, daunting to deal with that kind of negativity. But obviously, when I was 18, I didn't know anything about anything. Maybe that, that was a good thing. Ignorance was bliss, maybe then. But at the same time, if I could go back to when I was 18, I want to tell her that actually you're living in UK many, many years later, and you have an amazing husband from Hull, and you have 2 amazing children and miniature dachshund. House is small, but I can't complain.
That's a great answer. And, it's taken the bravery to jump on that plane at 18. I know you're excited, 70% excitement, 30% trepidation, but it's funny how things turn out, isn't it, based on the decisions we make. So
I think I was lucky enough to have the supportive family that who trusted me, and also I was lucky to be able to find my passion when I was only 4. But I didn't know that was my passion when I was 4. But it continues. I mean, learning English was my thing.
Yeah, and you pursued it from finding it at 4 and pursuing it.
Yeah, and now reverse way. I'm trying to spread the beauty of my country where I grew up.
Maybe British culture's an ikigai as well.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, why
amazing.
not? Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Well, it's been such a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for coming over. And it's, so great to get an insight into the culture, but obviously also your business, which, well done for doing it.
Oh,
and
thank
I'm so
you.
glad it's progressing well.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, even after podcast, keep in touch and let's talk about Shogun next time.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we'll do a session in, not Shogun, but we'll do a session in the kitchen for sure.
And also, I need to make your itinerary when you go to Japan. I need to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we'll definitely pick your brains on that one for sure.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you so much. ありがとうございました.
Thank you so much.
Arigato.
ありがとう.
All right.
But I ain't